Hello, and thank you for staying with us. If you have just joined us, a very big welcome. We're talking about shortlist or stitch up. As I said at the beginning of the program, that Poplar and Limehouse is going to have a new candidate to stand in the next parliamentary election because Jim Fitzpatrick is retiring, and as a result of that, the Labour Party, the NEC of the Labour Party, have decided to impose an all-woman shortlist. We have two new guests in our studio right now. Let me introduce my new guest to you. Sitting on my right is Kirsty Finlayson, who has been a former Tory candidate for councillor and also an MP candidate, I believe, a parliamentarian candidate. And also you've been an activist for quite some time.
For the past 10 years,
10 years, yes. And you also represent an organisation called 50-50 in Parliament.
Yes, that's correct.
A very big welcome, Kirsty. Thank you for coming to my show. No doubt we will find a bit more about you in due course. Sitting next to Kirsty is Natasha Bolter. Good evening, Natasha.
Hi. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you for coming along. Thank you for making the time. Now, I know you stood as a council independent candidate in the past.
Yes.
And you feel very strongly about this all-women shortlist process.
Yeah, like incredibly
so
strong.
We'll talk a little bit about that. Okay, let me put my first question to you. Is there a problem with women representation in Parliament? Why should we have a all-women shortlist?
So obviously we do realise that it is hard to get women in politics because some women do have caring responsibilities as well as being politics, and they shoulder a lot of the caring responsibilities as opposed to men. But it should never be about whether it's an all-woman shortlist. It should be the best candidate. What we are suffering from in Tower Hamlets is lack of leadership. What we don't have is good leadership at the moment. Whoever is going to be the next...
when you say we don't have a good leadership, are you trying to say that Rushnara Ali, who is a woman,
yes,
fantastic,
yes,
MP,
yes,
Jim Fitzpatrick, who's been an MP for the last 25 years or so, fantastic MP.
Well, if they're so fantastic, then when I'm knocking on doors and talking to the community, why do they have so many problems? Why did my own daughter, I had to fight the whole borough if we have all these fantastic MPs who are in contact with me, couldn't get a school place for 2 years after she got better from being in hospital. If we have all this fantastic leadership, why are our children dying on the streets? If we have all this fantastic leadership, why are our old people having their meals and wheels cuts? If we have all this fantastic leadership, why are all these problems happening in Tower Hamlets?
Isn't that due to...
No, it's due to the right candidate for the position.
Let me put my question to you. Isn't that due to the cutback because of central government's funding that we're having to face these crises? I don't
think we can blame every single leadership mistake on lack of money. Okay. And the reason I'm against all female shortlist, I think it should just be the best candidate for the job. I don't care if they're black or white or a woman or they have disabilities. If they show to me good leadership skills, because we know whoever gets the Labour nomination will win Tower Hamlets because this is a safe Labour seat. Okay. So if they have good leadership skills...
Isn't that more of a reason that why we should have a woman? Because
no, it's more of a reason why we should have a candidate who employs good leadership skills, who's able to unite the borough and all the divisiveness that we live within.
Thank you, Natasha. You're entitled to your opinion. What do you think, Kirsty? You've heard what Natasha had to say.
I'm director of a campaign called Ask Her to Stand, which is about getting more women into public office and particularly Parliament. And we are a cross-party campaign called 50-50 Parliament. And we have, within the campaign, we have very different views. We have Labour activists who believe in all-female party shortlists. As a Conservative candidate and as someone who has been through the selection process, I am personally against all-female party shortlists, and it's probably one of the very few things Natasha and I will be agreeing on this evening. But I think that people should be selected on their merit. However, I do think there are lots of difficulties with the selection process that affect women, and we have to look at those things. So particularly in the Conservative Party, we have a lot of male members, and when it comes to selection, if you're walking into a room full of 95% men, there is obviously going to be some sort of bias towards men in the room. And if your viewers now close their eyes and think of a cartoon MP, you're probably going to think of a man, because that's what we're used to. So it's about changing people's idea of what the cultural and mental idea of an MP is.
Thank you. Let me just stop you there.
The shortlists.
Close your eyes and think of a cartoon MP male. What are your views on that? I mean, do you agree with that, or?
I just want to pick up on it again. We're not addressing issues of class here. What it is, we live in a society that's got massive inequalities, and those inequalities have increased. So the distance between rich and poor have increased. That's a fact, and we need to address that in our political system. Now, I am for women are the ones that are most affected in terms of austerity and poverty, and I see as a counsellor on a daily basis through my surgery, it's the women who actually come with a lot of those issues, bread and butter issues, because they're the ones who are having to make those kind of choices. Now, I'm for gender equality, but we need to address it. We need representation in terms of women of class, women from working class communities who could actually speak for that. When we just go on just an issue of gender, then what you're having is, instead of having white middle class men, you end up with white middle class women.
No, what? Sorry, may I just ask what your point?
Okay, let him make the point. Go on.
And that's what it is. What I'm saying is that we need to talk about class here.
So what is your view on? Sorry,
I
didn't
understand. We want to increase women representation.
So what is your view?
I didn't understand your view on whether you support female party shortlists or not.
I think it's a blunt tool. It needs to be basically much more nuanced into the way it's applied, especially when it comes to ethnic minority communities, actually used as a tactic to basically disenfranchise ethnic minority communities.
Right.
And that's what it is.
Used as a tool to disenfranchise Asian males. Do you agree with that,
No,
Natasha?
not at all.
No, right.
And I also
why don't you agree? Tell us that.
Because I think if you want to be a politician and if you want to do something for the community with the right support, you can get there. Let's take the Labour Party. It's full of working people from Tower Hamlets. Isn't it down to how the Labour Party is run that these people are not coming through and becoming candidates?
Let's hear someone from the Conservative Party. I mean, what do you think?
I think we need to address representation across all areas of society, but fundamentally we have 51% of the population in the UK is female, so we're obviously not doing enough to get people into those positions.
Which party do you represent? The Liberal?
I suppose, yeah.
Liberal Democrat. Let's hear a Liberal Democrat point of view. What do you think?
I don't think they have a women's shortlist for a start.
Right, okay.
And
do you agree with some of the points that was made by Puru, Kirsty, Natasha?
I think there is a real issue of class representation.
Okay.
And you see that. And like somebody, I was talking about this program over the weekend with somebody, and they said exactly that thing. You're going to get a male lawyer being replaced by a female lawyer, and actually that's not really addressing the issues, because I've been a single mom, and I've brought up my kids on my own, and so has Natasha as well, and basically that gives you an understanding of situations that somebody who's never been in that situation, like for instance all the issues with universal credit, if somebody had actually been in that position of being really in trouble with money, they would have foreseen the problems that the universal credit
Purumia made a very valid point earlier on about it's a choice between buying a pair of trainers for your kid or putting food on the table. So which would you go for?
Exactly, and unless you've been in that position, you can't tell.
All I can say is,
I think you can't just say that we have to open it up to people and not consider their skill set. I mean, look at Sajid Javid. He has come a huge way in the Conservative Party from a very humble background, and I think that we need to judge people on what they can bring to the table, their experience. And as Natasha was saying, agreeing with her again, is that actually if you really, really want something, if you want to become an MP, you will be able to put yourself forward.
Can I come back on that?
Of course you can. You're the only male in here, so...
Where you end up...
And I have to remain neutral, as you know.
I'm going to pick up on the issue of Sajid Javid. I don't have issues with rich people. You know, people want to make money, they can, but rich people look out for their own interests, and you just have to look at Sajid Javid or the current cabinet.
Actually, we have to disagree that...
Let him finish that.
And I have residents who are living in overcrowded housing, who have to make decisions every single day as to trainers or food.
But what's this got to do with female representation?
And what I'm saying is that we have to address the issues of class here as well. It's not just gender inequality, there's class inequality as well. And what I'm saying is, if we're going to apply equality's tool, like if we say put a goal that we want 50% representation in Parliament, which I'm for.
So
we need to make that
sorry though, Piru, if you're speaking about
we need working class representation. And that I'm not hearing that.
You're saying it's a class issue, but under
under
the Labour administration, we have schools in Tower Hamlets that you're saying it's a class issue. Under the Labour Tower Hamlets, we have schools that are failing. We have Ofsted that failed their social services and then suddenly passed. We have all these failures, and within the Labour Party, you have lots of people from disadvantaged backgrounds. I'm from a disadvantaged background. I've managed to do some things for the community. There's lots of people in the Labour Party. Why are you not propelling them into MPs? Why are you not supporting the women within there to do well within the party? Why are you blaming the society? Why are you blaming society at large and cuts? Why are you not looking after yourself?
If you look at my record in the Labour Party, I banged on about the issues in the local Labour Party, and I banged on about equalities, and my record speaks for itself. I campaign for members' rights, I campaign for the lifting of special measures, and I'm campaigning to get training done. And that's what it is. We have a Labour Party, a local Labour Party, it's reflective of many local Labour parties. It reflects the inequalities in the society. And you have a party that's supposed to be for the many.
There are a lot of inequalities which the Labour Party has yet to address, just like any other political parties.
Yes.
Definitely.
And that's maybe why you're having problems with all-female shortlists.
The Labour Party is a reflective of society. And I just want to come back to this issue of Poplar and Limehouse and the AWS. The people who actually made the decision do not live in Poplar and Limehouse. The people who made the decision did not even consult. It was the NEC officers group, so it wasn't the entire NEC.
Right.
And that's what it comes down to. It's an undemocratic decision, and it disenfranchised a mainly ethnic minority.
Can I make the point?
Go on, make the point.
The most important thing is that you get...
The point is not the tool, it's the application of it.
Let Kirsty come in. Go on, Kirsty.
The most important thing is you get the best people in your area to be representing you, whether that's
it's
through
like
leadership,
going for a job. If you're going to go for a job, you would expect the employer to offer the job to the best candidate.
And
not
for example,
just because you're a woman.
I recently got through to a parliamentary selection, and there were a few hundred applications that went down to 8 people for the interview stage, and it ended up having 4 women in the final. Now that was based
What about the
merit.
men? Wasn't there any men that was good enough to be in the final?
Well, I wasn't selecting myself, but the selection panel chose based on merit. That's how the Conservative Party runs its parliamentary selections.
I'm sure all the parties tries to run it in a similar manner, but it doesn't necessarily
no, because
mean
we don't have the all-female party shortlists in the same way as Labour does.
Right.
There were, I believe,
it's almost discrimination against men, isn't it? You're almost discriminating against men by having all-female.
Then what do you think? You're the only Liberal Party member here, an activist. You've heard what a Labour person had to say, a Tory person had to say, an independent person had to say. What is your view on this then?
My view basically is the fact it is a safe Labour seat, and I want the best person for the job.
Right.
And I've got,
and that means you don't necessarily want to see.
I don't necessarily want to see
an all-woman shortlist.
And
you want the process to be open to all.
And even I would say something even more radical. I would say the fact that there's 1,200 people to select the MP. How many votes are there?
We're looking at a selectorate of about 1,500.
Okay, 1,500 people are selecting an MP who represents an area.
That's the total Labour Party
membership in Poplar and Limehouse.
Yeah, 1,500.
And you've got
are they all eligible? Sorry, Peru. Or?
That's rough calculation. Eligible.
Eligible.
Yeah.
Right,
so
okay.
so they're going to be selecting somebody according to their criteria who they think is good, and it's representing me and I don't know how many 80,000 other residents who are not all Labour members, who are not all necessarily. I mean, I've got a problem with it if it's someone from Momentum. I don't want anyone from Momentum representing me. And you know, how representative of me is that person going to be? And they're my MP, and they've got to back my corner. And I think that we need people who can actually.
Unify
of course,
us.
they come from a party, but they have to be able to reach out and actually, like Natasha says, show leadership. Have an inclusive approach and actually lift the borough up and appeal to everybody in the borough, but to pass the Labour criteria and to actually get selected, actually those traits aren't necessarily what they're looking for. They're looking for very different traits, and I've got a problem with the whole MP selection in general in a safe seat, because in a safe seat whoever they choose wins, and there's a lot at stake, and there becomes a lot of things behind the scenes go on in safe seats. Because
see, I have a feeling that this selection process in Poplar and Limehouse is going to be a mud fight, basically.
Yeah.
And you know, and that doesn't necessarily mean that whoever comes out at the end will be the best candidate for the people.
No.
And I think it's not because it's the people's fault. It's because of the process, or if you like, the obstacles that's been placed by the Labour Party.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure whether you agree with this.
Or maybe it's time for another political party to realise all these disenfranchisement within Tower Hamlets and stand up and fight for the people. And maybe Labour won't be such a safe seat if another political party gives us leadership.
But, I mean, with all respect, we're going to get a Labour MP.
Yeah.
And,
because it's a safe Labour seat.
Yes, and if you read Isabel Hardman's book, it's called Why We Get the Wrong Politicians. It goes into a lot of detail about the ways in which we get the wrong MPs.
So do you think there is a lesson to be learned from all of this then?
Well, absolutely. I think it comes down to what do you want your MP to do? Do you want them to be someone who's lived in the area for 30 years, has sort of clambered up the slimy pole of politics and got to know the right people and all this sort of thing that some people do in Tower Hamlets? Or do you want them to be effective leaders? Do you want them to have the right experience doing charity work, community work? And it comes down to what you want in your MP, because ultimately they're someone who is there to make legislation in Parliament.
But isn't that what everybody wants? Isn't that what Peru wants? Isn't that what Debbie wants? Isn't that what Natasha wants?
I think we need both.
Looking at the context of Poplar Limehouse, what we need is an MP who understands the issues of structural inequality. That you have a ridiculous sort of like banana republic situation of the richest part of Britain in terms of economic productivity, yet 51% of the residents are on the poverty line. And we need an MP who understands that, who understands what it means to be hungry, who understands what it means to live in overcrowded housing.
Peru, I've never, that's wrong. What you're saying, in order to be an MP, Peru, honestly, in order to be an MP, you have to understand what it is to be hungry. Come on,
Natasha,
like,
tell us about. Okay, look, let's just move away from this. Let's just move away.
I run a food bank in Poplar and
Let's just move away. Okay, look, let's stop from ruling here. Let's just move away from here.
In general,
let's just move away from this. Natasha, we're going to go on a break fairly soon. Tell us about your own experience when you stood as a council candidate. What were the difficulties that you came across?
So, the difficulties in my personal life was childcare, because obviously I've got daughters, and at the time one of my daughters was really unwell, so it was really hard to go out and go to all the evening events and go and canvass and knock on doors. So that was a personal difficulty. The second difficulty I found is sometimes you get unwanted attention from men, because sometimes you're just speaking to them because you'd quite like them to support your campaign, And sometimes
So
it can be
when you
misconstrued
were campaigning on people's doorstep,
Mm.
what were the problems that you encountered?
Well, I got a stalker. That wasn't very nice. Sometimes I didn't feel safe because as a woman, sometimes if you had to go to something alone and you were driving home late alone, sometimes I didn't feel very safe. These are the negatives, right? There was lots of positives, but
what are the positives? Tell us about
the positives is that you really got to see the community and you could really make a difference in some people's lives.
So do you think by having an understanding of the community that you are going to represent,
obviously without a doubt,
it puts you in a better position to be able to understand their problems?
You need to understand the entire community because Poplar and Limehouse is a tale of two. Well, it's a tale of two cities, isn't it? You know. Well, you have on one hand, you've got like 4 food banks within Poplar and Limehouse. That's an extraordinary amount. You have the highest school dinner record, the free school dinner record in the country. But then on the other hand, you have bankers that are making £900 an hour, and these people aren't being
Let Kirsty come in.
I think in my experience of being a councillor candidate in Tower Hamlets, I didn't experience any negativity as a result of being a woman. And actually, there are skills that women tend to bring, if you want to stereotype, which actually can add value to being on the doorstep campaigning. I mean,
thank you, Kirsty. We need to go on another short break, sadly, and after the break, Natasha is going to leave, and we're going to be joined by the Speaker of Tower Hamlets Council. So, ladies and gentlemen, please don't go anywhere. Stay with us. We'll be back very soon. Thank you.